50s or 60s of agreements takes place. So not everything is important for us in this particular G7 event. So that is why it becomes important for UPSC Prelims as well. India is attending G7. So such kind of facts can be asked in the examination. The last year it was Delhi. Delhi has handed over the presidency of 2024 G20 summit to Brazil. So this is why this particular summit is important, that India was invited as a guest of honor. So you can say ASEAN happens to be a gateway to the Northeast, development of the Northeast, because these ASEAN countries. Hello everyone, this is me 𝐂𝐿 I welcome you all to PW UPSC Wala English. Friends, as you know that we have just around 2 months for prelims, and in this meantime there is a lot of content to be revised, and we keep thinking that what new should be added, how to trim the content, what is important, what is not important. So in this scenario, we have brought a video for you. This video would be covering the important international events of 2024. The objective over here is not to cover all the events. The objective of this video is to shorten the content of the events. That means I'll be delivering you the most important part of the event. Plus, I'll not be covering all the events because, as you know, in a year, hundreds of events happens and 50s or 60s of agreements takes place. So not everything is important for us. Keeping in mind that UPSC would be asking 1 or 2 questions from this very particular area. So let us only focus upon those events which were important from the viewpoint of India, or which have had any major change in the international politics. So let us start this series, and first would be G7. As you know, G7 happens to be one of the most important informal grouping of the world. Why informal? Because there is no proper secretariat, there is no system to run it. Members just take on the presidency on the rotation basis. This happened in Italy this year. So G7, again, India was an important member, observer. India was a special invitee in this session, in this particular G7 event. So that is why it becomes important for UPSC Prelims as well. If you could see, G7 happened in Apulia, that is in Italy. That was in the middle of June 2024. Important is that we have 7 members. It happened to be G8 at one point of time. Russia was removed. Now it is G7. US, UK, Canada, France, Germany, Italy was the host, and you have Japan. As per the members list, you can understand that this is focusing upon a Western agenda. This organization, this grouping is completely tilted towards the interest of US and the European members and the European nations, or you can say it is anti-communist, anti-Russia summit as of now, or grouping as of now. Now, why it was important this year? Because in 2024, India was invited as an outreach, or India joined the outreach session. PM Modi called for an ending monopoly in technology. So India had a very important role to play this time. Apart from that, Pope also attended this session, and he became one of the first popes of the Christianity to attend such kind of events. So important facts are listed over here. Let us go through them. Number 1 is special invitees were India, Brazil, South Africa, and Ukraine. Why Ukraine? Most of the agendas were based upon the safety and security and the rebuilding of Ukraine. This was one of the most important agenda of this summit. International organizations like UN, EU, IMF, World Bank, African Union, and OECD countries were the most important members over here. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as I have already told you, that he represented India as an outreach country. India was the outreach country, and this was the 5th time India is attending G7. So such kind of facts can be asked in the examination. 5th consecutive attendance at G7. So given the clout currently India holds, given the importance currently India holds in the international politics, 5th time India, continuously 5th time India has become the participant of this very summit. Then apart from this, historic moment was when Pope Francis attended this. He also addressed the ethical concerns or the ethical implications about artificial intelligence. So this particular summit also focused on artificial intelligence, where the developed countries want to have a common framework or a universal framework of running the AI system. As you know, the artificial intelligence is the new buzz around the corner. Every country wants to capitalize it, and in this particular setup, the Western countries like US have already capitalized in form of Grok, in form of GPT. So that is why, or OpenAI. So that is why this summit also focused upon a common framework, that there should be a universal framework of usage of AI so that misuse cannot happen, and all the countries across the globe can have equitable benefit out of such new technologies. So first thing is, objective was support for Ukraine. Second was global economic stability. In this current scenario, as you can see, US or the Europe is facing a lot of inflation crisis. That was because of the unstable food supply. Food supply has been compromised because of Russia-Ukraine war. Second thing is gas supply has been compromised because of the closing of the important pipelines from the Russia in the advent of the Ukraine war. These major outcomes of the war have impacted the economy of the European nations, and this is where the European nations now want a stability. They want a global supply chain management. They want that supply chain should be restored and inflation and current scenarios and the similar problems should be stopped. So here support for Ukraine happened. Then at the same time, global economic stability was one of the agenda, in which inflation control, food stability, food availability should be taken care of. At the same time, AI governance was also focused. Now, when it comes to AI governance, all the countries are looking towards a common platform to regulate the AI. AI is a boon for someone. Obviously, it will become a bane for many other people as well. At the same time, climate action was one of the agenda. When it comes to G20, when it comes to G7, there are some common themes which would be discussed every time. First happens to be the climate action. Second happens to be the inequality in the world. So we'll discuss this later. But over here, climate action was one of the agenda. Climate action was discussed. Accelerating green transition, clean energy investments, and climate finance was one discussion. Why climate finance? Because the developing nations require a lot of fund to implement the new technologies. Green technologies or technologies supporting the or you can say containing the climate change requires a lot of funds. Countries like India, countries like other developing nations do not have that massive scale of funds so that they can stop or they can use these kinds of new technologies. So that is why in every other upcoming summit, you will see that climate finance is one of the upcoming agenda which will be discussed, in which these nations would be asking for a lot of finances so that they can implement new technologies in their countries. At the same time, migration management was a major concern. These G7 nations are facing a lot of migration from the African and the West Asian nations because of instability, because of food crisis, food insecurity in Africa, food crisis in Africa, poverty in Africa, inequality in Africa. At the same time, unstable governments in the Western Asia. So a lot of migration is happening in countries like Germany, in countries like Italy, countries like France. US is also witnessing a lot of migration. So that is why global migration management was discussed. At the same time, geostrategic competition. China has become a competitor for every nation in the world, and this is where they discussed how to contain the coercive economic actions of China, how China's actions could be contained. This was also the point of discussion in this particular summit. Apart from that, food security, I have already told you, and health cooperation was one agenda which was discussed, in which it was looked after that how new or any new pandemic or any pandemic comes up, what kind of global management, global policies do we have to cater this. At the same time, other facts, I have already told you, G7 lacks permanent structure. There is no permanent structure. There is no secretariat. There is no one city in which they have a secretariat. They have an office. So it operates on the rotation basis, where every member takes up the presidency on rotation to rotation, year to year basis, year on year basis. And this is where Italy was hosting this year's summit. Rotating presidency, this can be one fact. G7 president rotates annually among its 7 members. The host country sets the agenda for the year and organizes the annual summit. Italy has done so far. No permanent secretariat, no place, nothing like that. No UN-like structure, no WTO-like structure. Presiding country is responsible for everything, for coordinating meetings, for arranging the summit, for conducting the summit. This is how, and handing over the presidency to the next country. Now, there is a question as well. What you need to do is, I'll just read the question. In the comment section, you have to tell me the answer. Once you will post the answer in the comment section, you will be getting the PDF from one Telegram channel. I would be sharing the link of the Telegram channel at the end of the session. With reference to the G7 summit, consider the following statements. Apulia, where this summit happened, Apulia, Italy. Principles relate to governance of artificial intelligence. G7 announced a 50 billion climate fund for developing countries. G7 members are also part of G20. Which of the following is correct? For this, we need to go to G20 as well. You would be able to reply to this question once we'll go through G20 as well. G20 happened in Brazil, Rio this time. Now, what was the agenda? Last year it was Delhi. Delhi has handed over the presidency of 2024 G20 summit to Brazil. When it comes to G20, you need to understand what kind of members it has. When you will be able to understand the members of any summit, you would be able to understand the common agendas of that summit. Now, let us see the members first. Happened in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Leaders from G20 countries, obviously African Union, European Union are the permanent. African Union is a permanent member. European Union is again a member over here. Now, if you see the countries involved, countries like Argentina from the Latin America, similarly countries like Mexico, country like Brazil, these major countries from Latin America. At the same time, you have African Union. At the same time, you have South Africa, you have Indonesia, you have Saudi Arabia, India, obviously China, Russia. These kinds of countries are the members of G20 apart from the developed members as well. So Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Republic of Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi, South Africa, Turkey, UK, US, and then you have European Union and African Union. There are 19 members plus, well, there are total 20 members over here, plus the African Union. Now, when it comes to the agenda of this year's meeting, first is Just World and Sustainable Planet. Again, when it comes to organizations like G20, what would be their agenda? Their agenda is focused upon the sustainability. Their agenda is focused upon equality. Their agenda is focused upon climate change. So this is where this year G20 also focused upon the same things. Number one, promoting inclusive economic recovery. You need to focus upon inclusive economic recovery. There should not be a major gap between northern and the southern countries. North-south divide should be minimized. Then next is tackling climate change. Climate change happens to be another major concern. Whenever, if you know, you already know that climate change is a new problem for the developed world, but it is a greater problem for the developing world, because the developing world would be at a more bad receiving end when it comes to the climate change. So obviously we need to focus on climate change. We need to focus on climate finance. So they need a lot of finance to implement green technologies, and this is where they are looking for the money, they are looking for the help or technology transfer from the Western nations. Then obviously nature-based solutions and carbon pricing mechanism was discussed, that how you are going to, let us say, if any developing country is establishing a carbon neutral system, how you are going to price it, how you are going to give the rewards, how you are going to give the incentives with regard to such kind of new technologies. Then obviously reforming the global governance. These countries are also concerned about the partiality, the partial system, or the biased working of WTO, biased working of IMF, biased working of World Bank. So this is where they also discuss that how global governance can be reformed. We need to have more inclusive system in the global governance. We need to have equal representation in the global governance. At the same time, global climate governance, global trade governance, international financial system. Another was linking the debt with the incentives. You need to give debt reliefs to the developing nations if they are performing well when it comes to the sustainable development goals. If any country, any developing countries achieves the 2030 agenda of the SDG, then you need to give them incentives in form of debt reliefs. So this was also discussed, that why don't you link the debt reliefs with the sustainable development? When you will be linking them with the sustainable development, obviously countries would be happier to do or achieve SDGs, because they know their debt systems would be benefited or their debts would be waived off. At the same time, technology and digital inclusion, India also discussed upon. In 2023 also we discussed upon the digital inclusion. We discussed that internet is the new weapon in the world, or the data is the new oil in the world. We need to give this benefit to all the nations. There are few nations at this point of time who are having an advantage upon who have capitalized the data. They are regulating the data, they own the companies, and then there are the countries who are just using the data, who are just the users. So that is why India also discussed last year that we need to have a technological and digital inclusion. Every country should be given a fair chance to be incorporated in the digital system of the world. So promoting equitable access to digital technology, obviously governance frameworks for AI, digital trade, and cyber security, because when it comes to the cyber security, the less developed countries are not able to protect them. Next was adoption of Rio Leaders Declaration, sustainable development, climate justice, debt relief. This we have already discussed. Then doing carry forwarding from the previous 2023 summit. the same was rediscussed. Global health security, reforming global financial institutions, global alliance against hunger and poverty. Last year also we discussed the same thing, that we need to address the food security challenges, we need to address the climate change, we need to have more climate resilient agriculture. And obviously Brazil also facing the same crisis. Brazil also has a very dominant agriculture system. India also has the same thing. So this is where both the nations are discussing that how climate change should be minimized, or the impact of climate change should be minimized on the agriculture setup of the nation. This was discussed. So equitable green transition, especially for fossil fuel dependent economies, transition should be equitable in nature. Let us say if US is developing the green technology, that should help the other nations to develop the green technology, so that our dependence upon the fuel based system should be reduced. At the same time, emphasizing loss and damage funding mechanism for climate vulnerable nations. Let us say nations who are very much climate vulnerable, let us say any nation who is an island nation, and if they are facing a lot of challenges due to the rise in the sea level, or a nation has a lot of snow capped mountains, or nation is let us say country like Bhutan, who's stationed who is settled around the mountains, so they would be the first one to see the impact of the climate change. At the same time, the countries in the islands would be again the first one to see the impact of the climate change. So the global warming would obviously disturb everyone, would obviously create problem for everyone, damages for everyone, but you need to emphasize the loss recoveries, you need to focus upon the losses being done by these very nations. So this was also discussed. Then at the same time, again prioritizing the same thing which we have discussed in G20 India, same thing was discussed, that you need to have a data public infrastructure, climate financing, climate resilient infrastructure, global alliance against hunger and poverty was again discussed. Now another basic fact, difference between G7 G20, this can be asked. G7 7 plus EU, G20 19 plus EU. G7 advanced economies, G20 global economies including emerging markets, the new markets. G7 is a informal system, not having any secretariat, whereas over here you have a broader representation, you have a better system of working. Then this is the question. You can just go through the question and you can answer in the comment section. Next was BRICS 2024. Now what was the agenda of BRICS? Look, this year BRICS focused upon expansion of the membership. Currently BRICS was, or before this summit in 2023, BRICS was having members as Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. 2024 they tried to add Argentina. In 2023 itself, they invited Argentina to be the member because they wanted to have a multipolar representation. So adding Argentina would be nothing but adding a country from Latin America, Southern America. At the same time, they also invited Saudi Arabia to be the member, so that we can have more comprehensive partnership in the Middle East, and we can have a member nation, a group of member nations who regulate the oil prices in the world, so that any war, any kind of global impact should not be able to impact on the prices of should not be able to put the impact on the prices of oil. But what has happened? Argentina in 2024 denied to join. They refused to join. Saudi Arabia is still considering. It was about to join, but because of the Trump's election, Saudi Arabia again has put up this membership status, or this status into they are not considering anything. They are like, because we cannot have bad relations with the US happens to be a very important ally of Saudi Arabia. So on the pretext of the election of Donald Trump in US, currently Saudi Arabia is not considering joining BRICS. Earlier it was considering, but now it is not considering. So how many members we have now? We have the old members like Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Then United Arab Emirates joined, though Saudi refused. Egypt joined, Ethiopia joined. This again expanded the membership to Central Asia, to the West Asia, as well as to the North Africa. But at the same time, Iran also joined. Now, this gave a boost to the countries like Russia, China, India, who are into trading terms with Iran, but are not able to conduct the trade because of the various sanctions of the US or of the Western countries. India again has a lot of money invested. India has a lot of interest in the region. India buys oil from Iran. India has investments in the port of Iran. But at the same time, because of the US sanctions, India is not able to carry forward that trade or take forward that particular investment in the Iranian region. So this membership of Iran would obviously help India to have a one-on-one currency based trade over here, or the regional members would be able to find a solution to this Iranian problem. Next is Indonesia joined recently. This is one of the first Southeast Asian nation to be the part of BRICS. Okay, so this is the first nation from the Southeast Asia to join BRICS. Now, observers, obviously African nations, when it comes to BRICS, BRICS is again looking towards a multipolar order, a more equitable world system, a system in which G20 members, the developing members, the South-South cooperation can be enhanced. We can minimize our dependence upon the Western nations like US. Their policies should not affect the developing nations, should not affect the trade system of these countries. As you can see, currently Donald Trump is using tariff as a way to terrorize the world. Okay, he is just increasing the tariffs, he is distorting the trade system of the world. This is where BRICS kind of country, kind of membership, kind of alliances can help India to bypass such kind of rules. So African nations, global financial institutions and UN representatives are again the part of BRICS. Now, what was the agenda? Membership expansion was the first agenda. Multipolar world was the part of this agenda only. Strengthening South-South cooperation, creating a multipolar world and promote alternative trade system. This we have already discussed. How BRICS trade, intra-BRICS trade investments can be increased. Global challenges, the BRICS countries face the same challenges: slowdown, inflation, climate change, poverty, inclusion, equitable system. All these things were on the table. Technology, energy transition and digital economy was again discussed. Outcomes were nothing. So expanded membership, Saudi Arabia still under consideration. So they are not were to be included. Okay, so they are not included now. It is were to be included. Argentina and Saudi Arabia. Okay, so this is just for your clarity. Saudi Arabia was about to join. Argentina has already backed out. Saudi Arabia has not replied so far. Expansion signifies greater regional representation, Middle East, Africa, Latin America, combination of three major continents. Then increased economic weight, combined GDP surpassing the G7. Currently, if you can see that BRICS has a more GDP share in the world as compared to G7 nations, and obviously stronger representation from oil-rich nations. Currently not Saudi Arabia, currently UAE, Iran will enhance role in the energy markets. Then major outcomes call for a multipolar world. This we have already discussed is going to be the new agenda. Then strengthening the new development bank. This new development bank will try to act the World Bank of the BRICS nation. It is currently under process. It is currently trying its best so that it can help these nations to sustain any global outage, economic outage. Trade and financial cooperation, BRICS Energy Alliance to stabilize oil prices, gas markets, intra-BRICS trade, agriculture, pharmaceutical, renewable, promote the BRICS payment system to facilitate cross-border transactions using local currencies. Next is focus on the African development, Africa's development agenda. So commitments to infrastructure financing, obviously NDB, the National Development Bank would be funding the infrastructure in these nations so that these nations are not solely dependent upon the Western groupings or the Bretton Woods system. Geopolitical message, the message it has sent to the world: together we can bypass the hegemony of US. We are credible enough, we are strengthened enough to bypass any problem created by the Western nations. So reducing Western dominance in the global financial architecture, promoting a rule-based international order, one rooted in multipolarity. Currently, WTO also says that we are a rule-based system, but as you can see, WTO is more interested in promoting the agendas of the Western nations, the European nations, and not of the developing nations. This particular grouping is going to focus only on the multipolar system. Obviously, opposing unilateral sanctions, economic coercion, especially targeting Iran and Russia. India's priority, India again balanced expansion. India supported the gradual and merit-based expansion. Again, India also proposed a BRICS tech alliance focusing upon the new technology, space cooperation, as well as AI governance and cyber security frameworks. So India has with these nations so that technology cooperation in these particular fields can happen. Next comes obviously India happens to be a global south voice. India is again focusing upon debt relief mechanism. India is focusing upon reforming the climate finance. Now this is the question for you. Take a pause, read the question and answer in the comment section. Next is India Paris AI Summit. Paris. India was one of the most important member over here in this particular summit, co-chaired by India and France. Attendees were global AI experts, policy makers. So this is AI Summit, representatives from major countries, academia, civil services, civil groups. Now, objectives: international cooperation in AI, ethical concerns of AI, responsible AI. Three major ideas were discussed. They also focused upon the AI governance, balancing AI investment. By balancing AI investment, currently all the investments are going in the Western nations. We need to do that investments in the other nations as well. Joint declaration signed by 58 countries. What they are looking for? They are looking for inclusive AI system, sustainable AI system, a system which is not only focusing upon the Western nations. So transparency, accessibility, ethical uses, global collaboration, international AI regulation. Obviously, US and UK abstained. They did not vote for it. Why? Because they were like that. If you are going to have a global platform, if you are going to develop a global platform, then obviously there would be some certain kind of compromises. So they were concerned over national AI strategies. So they wanted their own AI strategies to be implemented. Obviously, these nations, country like US is currently a country which is hosting almost all the AI networks when it comes to the OpenAI, when it comes to the Grok. So this is again from US only, developed by US companies only, promoting the interest of the capitalists in US only. So obviously countries like US and countries like UK will not be happy in signing such kind of global AI frameworks. Then launch of current AI foundation, open source tools to be developed. If you can see that if open source AI tools are developed, so these Western nations who are minting billions or who have invested billions of dollars would not be able to take out the money. They have done a lot of investment in their AI frameworks and the machine learning networks. If it becomes an open tool, if it is free for everyone, then obviously none other country in the world would require billions of massive funds to invest, and they would just be copying the code. They would just be using the code from the Western nations and making their own AI models. So AI would be highly decentralized system. Anyone and everyone would be able to make a AI model. It would be developed by everyone in the world. Then the USPs of the Western companies would be completely removed. They will not have any kind of USP, so they will not earn the investments back. That is why they're not happy with such kind of AI open tools. AI public goods, then supported by nine countries: India, France, Germany, Chile, and Kenya. They are looking for a current AI system. Next is formation of coalition for sustainable AI. Again, same thing, reducing AI carbon footprint. This can be one science and tech question as well. That which of the following increases the carbon footprint? AI systems. Obviously, artificial intelligence requires a lot of computing, heavy devices. Whenever you post a question in ChatGPT, it runs its servers, it computes it calculates, it computes, it fetches the data. That means for that particular moment, the server is running at its highest capacity. It is generating a lot of heat. It is consuming a lot of electricity. Okay, it is consuming a lot of non-renewable resources. Okay, then obviously it is increasing the carbon footprint. More the AI, more the usage, more the servers, more the carbon footprint. How to reduce AI-driven climate solutions, how AI can help in the climate solutions, and how misuse of AI can be prevented. At the same time, Roost was launched. What is Roost? Robust open online safety tool. This was being developed. This is being backed by OpenAI, Google, Discord, Columbia University. As you can see, these are US firms and US organizations. They are developing free open source tool to detect harmful AI. They are not giving you the code of AI. They are not giving you open AI system. Rather, they are giving you tools like the spywares or like the antivirus kind of thing, which can actually check the misuse of AI. Fine, that is also fine. AI-driven cyber threats, misinformation, so that AI cyberspace can be made a safe space. Global divide over AI regulation. Currently, as you can see, US and some industry leaders warned against over-regulation, stifling innovation. They're like, if you'll regulate it, if you'll make a lot of policies, if you'll regulate it a lot more than required, obviously, then innovation would not happen and the companies would not be developed. They are new AI networks. Then India's role, co-chaired the summit, obviously, advocated ethical AI, global south, proposed AI capacity building, aligned AI development, pushed for AI-driven solutions in healthcare and governance. This was discussed by the AI summit, in the AI summit. Now, AI summit 2025, this is the question. Now, you need to focus, you need to pause your screen and answer in the comment section. So, next topic over here would be World Government Summit 2024. This is what we are going to discuss now. World Government Summit 2024. Again, over here, if you can see that the main country which was involved, again, one of the most important country which was involved was India. Venue was Dubai, UAE. Approx, if you can see that 10 presidents and 10 prime ministers across the world, they participated. There was another delegates from 120 countries, international organizations, and the leaders and experts. The theme was shaping future governments. As the name suggests, it is the World Government Summit. It is about that how we are going to change the governance system of the world. Then India happened to be another important player over here. Objectives were key innovation and technology, how we can use the current technology for the best use of everyone. Global challenges, we have already discussed all the global challenges which India has been highlighting in all the major international summits. Apart from that, improve governance and foster international collaboration. So these were the major areas. Then what was the outcome? Outcome was that we need to change the nature of the governance. Emphasis is on the technological advancements and evolving societal needs, and human-centric approach has to be there for better governance in the world. Now, there were approx 23 ministerial meetings. Ministries, the ministers, they met on the sidelines of the summit and they discussed their own agendas. AI again happens to be another key issue over here, that how we can expand the AI in this region. Again, India's role was of the similar way, that India focused upon minimum government, maximum governance, emphasized transformative reforms and harnessing digital technology. Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended as a guest of honor. So this is why this particular summit is important, that India was invited as a guest of honor. So this we have already discussed, that how human-centric approach and everything was the limelight over here. Next is question. You can again pause the screen and try to give the correct answer in the comment section. I would be uploading the PDF in the Telegram channel. Next is third voice of Global South Summit. Now this was held virtually. There can be a fact on this, that this was held virtually. Yes, this was held virtually. As you can see the screenshot over here, that ministers, all the important delegates or the representatives are sitting in their offices and connecting through the screen. Now, Empowered Global Summit, Global South for a Sustainable Future. Again, South was the key important area. As the name suggests, it is third voice of Global South Summit. Representatives were from 123 countries, Asia, Africa, Latin America. Idea was to enforce or to foster global partnership by South-South countries. Again, India was a lead country over here. It was led by our PM only. That is why it becomes very important. Objectives were amplifying or telling the world the global agendas, or setting the global agendas, or making the global agendas South-centric, number one. Number two is promoting sustainable development. Number three is enhancing South-South cooperation. These are major objectives. Now, what was the outcome? Outcome was a global development has to be there, where comprehensive fourfold the goals can be achieved. Okay, so this is here where you can see that global development can happen. Next is trade for development. Trade should be as per the needs and necessities of the southern nation. So inter-trade in the southern nations should be made more sustainable, and capacity building for sustainable growth. Technology was again the point of concern over here, point of discussion over here. At the same time, project specific concessions were being asked by many developing nations, that how we can get various concessions when we are delivering certain projects which are necessary for our development. Financial commitments, 2.5 million. India also committed that we would be giving a certain amount for trade development, we would be giving a certain amount for capacity building. The amount is not so very important over here, but yes, for what purpose the amount would be given, that is more important than the number. Next is healthcare initiatives. Healthcare was again the problem in this. Yeah, it happened to be a very important concern in this current ongoing decade. So obviously healthcare was discussed and advocacy for global institutional reforms was also discussed. So these are the major areas. Next comes climate change and technology transfer. When it comes to the climate change tech transfer, so climate change mitigation, technology transfer, increased climate finance was again the part and parcel of this summit. This was discussed again. Now, India's role. India's role over here was nothing but a role of leadership. India led this particular initiative and India enforced the commitments of the South-South on this platform so that the world can see what southern countries are requiring. Then at the same time, second thing was the development initiatives. India's proposals such as Global Development Compact. What is Global Development Compact? It is nothing but a way of ensuring sustainable development in the nations. Then financial commitments. This was discussed along with the collaborative growth. Next comes the prelims question. Again, you can pause your screen and you can answer this in the comment section. Next, again, India-EU regional conference happened. This was on terrorism, that how we can have the various policies of countering terrorism. In this, India and EU would be sharing the techniques, the data of so that the online terrorism, online threats, ongoing terrorism, cyber terrorism can be stopped. So it was for the online radicalization and countering the exploitation of online spaces by extremist terrorist actors. It happened in New Delhi. European Union participated, Ministry of External Affairs and Global Counter-Terrorism Council and International Think Tank also participated. So what was the agenda over here? Agenda was nothing but to ensure safe internet for everyone. Conference brought experts, policy makers, India, Bangladesh, Maldives, Sri Lanka, they were present. Europe, European EU representatives were present. Then countries, as you can see, key agencies which were present, European Border Coast Guard Agency, Frontex. At the same time, European Counter-Terrorism Center, Europol also participated. Objective was nothing but how to address the emerging threats, how to stop the emerging threats, then how to counter the online exploitation, how to ensure that online exploitation should not happen through internet. At the same time, enhancing regional cooperation, strengthening counter-terrorism was also discussed. Strategy development, collaboration areas and knowledge sharing was also discussed at the same time. Now, there was one keyword over here, that is the European Counter-Terrorism Center. Let us look into this particular organization. This was in India. So, let us see. Number one, if you can see that it was established in 2015 in Europe. It is basically to enhance the capabilities of the agencies which are involved in counter-terrorism. It also facilitates a connection between the various nations. So you can say this is a nodal agency which helps the European countries to fight the online cyber terrorism or the ongoing terrorism in the Europe. Europe is currently facing a lot of crisis with regard to the terrorism, of which the cyber radicalization, cyber threats are very high. So this particular organization helps the European nations to have a common viewpoint, common framework and a common policing network so that such kind of threats can be countered. Now it would be also helping India. So it has a 4-pillar approach: facilitation of information. It would be giving information, cross-border information. It would be giving operational support. Let us say if you need some expertise, coordination, it would be giving. It is currently giving in European nations. Proactive mitigation, how to neutralize the threat, how to make social media a safe platform, and at the same time, central strategic support capability, how can we have that? Now comes another question on the screen. You can just look at it and answer it in the comment section. Next, 2 important events happened. Obviously, UNGA, every year it happens. 2024 agenda was about incorporating Palestine. So this happens to be an important event of this year. Ukraine conflict was discussed, climate change was discussed, Israel-Palestine crisis was thoroughly discussed, global economic stability and multilateral reforms were discussed in this particular summit. Another important matter which was discussed was giving Palestinian a membership vote. Palestine a membership vote. Non-binding resolution was passed to grant Palestine a UN full membership so that they can sit and they can vote in the UNGA assemblies. Now, this is a non-binding. What they have done is they have passed it. They have told the Security Council, this is what we believe, though it is not a binding thing. Security Council would be the last agency to decide. Now, global debt relief was also discussed. As you know that developing nations are having a lot of commitments. So, they need a new debt restructuring mechanisms from IMF and World Bank or the other international agencies so that they can focus on their development without taking concern of the repayment things. As you can see, Maldives is going to default. There was a news a few days back that Maldives is going to default the annual payment of the interest. So this is where the developing countries are facing currently a very high threat of the debt repayment, or they are not able to pay the debt because the economic slowdown has happened. Inflation is very high. The countries do not have much income. So that is why this is a new problem, and that is why they are looking for a global debt relief. Digital governance framework was also discussed. The important thing was that a resolution was passed so that Palestine can be given a membership. Now the question comes, how the membership can be given. Let us say in prelims they might ask, what is the procedure of giving the membership to any new nation? First thing is application. The state, let us say Palestine is willing, Palestine would submit an application to the UN Secretary General. That application would be passed or would be sent to the Security Council for recommendation. Security Council requires almost 9/15 votes without a veto vote. 9/15 votes as in 5 votes of the permanent members and rest 4 votes of the non-permanent members. As you know, 5 are the permanent members and 10 are the non-permanent members. Quickly tell me in the comment section who are the current non-permanent members of United Nations and what is their tenure. Fine. Now, recommendation has to be there. Without veto vote has to be there. That means all 5 would agree in principle, plus either 4 out of 10 would agree in principle, makes 9/15 votes. No veto. Then once it is recommended, General Assembly sits and passes it through 2/3 majority vote, and then it recommends and then it finally gives that particular effect to the membership. Then membership is given on the day of the adoption of resolution. These are 4 important ways, procedures of adopting the membership. Palestine has to go through all these 4. Obviously, we know US would not be interested in giving Palestine the permanent seat or giving the vote in the UNGA. Now, another thing is United Nations adopted Pact for Future. What is this? It is about addressing the challenges of 21st century, Global Digital Compact, then Declaration on Future Generations. Okay, Global Digital Compact means AI, new technologies, how they can be made human friendly and how they can be used for the benefit of humans. Next is United Nations Security Council. Newly elected members 2025-2026, Denmark, Greece, Pakistan, Panama and Somalia. These are the newly elected members. They are for the term of 2 years. They can make binding decisions enforceable under the UN Charter. India's membership has been 8 times till date. Last time we were member during COVID 2021-2022. Next, regional allocation. How these 10 members are elected? 3 seats from Africa, 2 from Asia Pacific, 2 from Latin America, Western Europe and others 2, and Eastern Europe 1 seat. Okay, so you can see that a lot of countries are there in Asia Pacific and you just have 2 seats. That is why expansion of the non-permanent members is being sought. At least if you are not able to expand the permanent members of Security Council, give seat to more non-permanent members in Security Council, because Asia is very vast continent. It has a lot of countries and just 2 seats from here is again a kind of underrepresentation. So likewise, India would not be getting a chance of this non-permanent membership at least 10-15 years from 2021. Every member serves 2 years. Immediate re-election is not allowed. Rotation system. Seats are given on the rotation system to ensure that every country gets a chance in this election. Now recently it was in news. Why it was in news? They took a common pledge initiative. Full, equal, meaningful participation of women in the peace process. So this is where they wanted that more and more women should should be incorporated in the peace process, or the peace process can become more gender equal. Next is brings together mediators, governments and civil society, promotes the appointment of women as lead mediators. Initiative strengthens women, peace and security by fostering gender inclusivity in the system. From UNSC, another organization comes, that is G4. It is again an informal system. What exactly is this? It is nothing, a group of 4 nations who are looking for a permanent membership. They want that UNSC should be reformed and these nations should be given a permanent membership. Veto system should be dissolved, or there should be heavy reforms in the UNSC so that every country can take benefit. These 4 members are India, Japan, Germany and Brazil. India, Japan, Germany and Brazil. So these 4 members are there who wants that we should have permanent membership for enhanced representation in the system in the UNSC. They want comprehensive reforms. They want UN should focus upon the contemporary global structures. Look, UNSC was formed when the world was bipolar. Currently, the world has become multipolar. India has a very important place. China has a very important place in this multipolar system. Brazil also has a very important place. So we want that UNSC should be reformed as per the today's requirements. Now, if you talk about these G4, there is another contrary organization group of countries which are blocking the G4's request, and this is called as a coffee club. Informally, this is a coffee club, nothing but that they are called as Uniting for Consensus. It is group opposing the G4 members. Countries like Italy, Pakistan, South Korea, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Spain, Turkey, Colombia, they want that you can say the India and other kinds of countries, the G4 countries should not be given the membership. They are not eligible enough. So they want more non-permanent seats in spite of expanding the permanent seats. India, G4 is looking for permanent expansion. You can incorporate 4 more permanent members. That makes 9 permanent members in the Security Council. But they are saying there is no requirement. India, Brazil, they do not fulfill the criteria of becoming the permanent member of United Nations Security Council. So it should be given, or the non-permanent membership should be expanded. They can be expanded from 10 to 15 to 20 and so on and so forth. The last of the day is 21st ASEAN-India Summit. Okay, it was between India ASEAN. So first let us see about ASEAN. ASEAN is nothing but headquartered in Indonesia, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Founding members were Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore. Current, there are 10 members. You can just go through them. You would be able to recall them in the exam. Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand and Vietnam. All these Southeast Asian countries. Objective is regional peace, stability as well as economic cooperation. It is also on the lines of becoming a European Union. Okay, though it doesn't have a free visa system as of now, it cannot have currently. Why? Because few nations are highly unstable. Countries like Myanmar are highly unstable. Till the time they don't achieve stability, political stability, they won't be able to open up the borders. Political security, economic and social cultural collaborations, regional integration and global competitiveness. When it comes to India, India is a very important partner of ASEAN. India is again the member of ASEAN plus 6, where India has recently made, in the past decade, has get a very good kind of economic trade with the ASEAN. At the same time, ASEAN is also helping India for its Northeast development. So you can say ASEAN happens to be a gateway to the Northeast development of the Northeast, because these ASEAN countries together can help India in bridging the gaps in the Northeast by building highways, roadways, by building tourist centers, connecting these areas. So this is where this particular region is very important. Again, it is part of India's Act East policy, which was devised by PM Modi in 2014. Now, Trade in Goods Agreement facilitates economic cooperation. ASEAN Digital Public Infrastructure, that was about collaboration in cybersecurity and AI. And next is BIMSTEC. Now, BIMSTEC is nothing but SAARC minus Pakistan. It is a very important organization. It has helped India to overcome the fallouts of the SAARC. Now, but it is only an economic partnership. SAARC was a comprehensive partnership. BIMSTEC, Nepal, Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Sri Lanka. Okay. Objectives: to enable environment for rapid development, collaborate mutually, close and beneficial cooperation, eradicate poverty in this particular region. So these are the BIMSTEC members. So currently, if you can see that focus area is trade and investment. This is the major focus area. Security, counterterrorism, disaster management, energy and environment. They are now building upon these particular areas. Dhaka happens to be the headquarters of this organization. Now, why was it news? Its charter came into force. It got a legal personality. Now, BIMSTEC would be able to present itself as a legal personality. When someone is a legal personality, that is able to make the contracts, that is able to sign the agreements and go to the court, okay, for their rights. So BIMSTEC can now enter into agreements, engage with international organizations, undertake legal commitments. It will basically strengthen all the commitments done in BIMSTEC, done by BIMSTEC in the neighboring or the member nations. It will also strengthen the institutions so that they can have better funding. Now it's a legal personality. Now more funds can be taken up, banks can be established, so it would have better system. Another organization in news was Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now the summit happened in Astana, Kazakhstan. What was the major agenda of this time? Member states China, Russia, India, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and newly admitted Iran. Iran was added here as well. Iran was added in BRICS. Iran was added here. So you can see that through SCO as well as through BRICS, India, China are strengthening the eastern part of the world, or they are strengthening the Asia, or they are strengthening the Asian system. At this point of time, such kind of organizations will help us to become a multipolar or take the benefits of multipolarity. Observer states are Mongolia, Azerbaijan, Turkey, Turkmenistan, Qatar. These were the observer states this time. But Afghanistan currently is inactive. It is again an observer, though Mongolia and Afghanistan are the permanent observers. But at this point of time, Afghanistan is not attending the summits. Why? Because it is inactive due to the government of Taliban in this region. Belarus became the 10th member to join SCO. This is again a news that Belarus also joined. So hopefully this is helpful for you. So I have tried to give everything in very simple, in a very crisp format, so that only that particular particular facts and information you should read, which is very much important for the examination, and you don't have to read everything under this particular organization, under this particular development. So what you need to do is you can download this slide from this very channel. You can join this channel for the updates as well. And apart from that, you can get the slide over there. We would be bringing other such videos if as and when the time allows. So thank you so much for being a very good listener. See you and all the best for your examination.